Come YouTube family, let's drown out today's static with this absolute gem of a Ask Reddit. Let's start with the questions. What was the most pathetic attention-seeking behavior you've ever witnessed? Story 1. My best friend was in a train wreck of a relationship with a woman who had some serious issues due to a former partner's infidelity. When he finally broke up with her, she would text him endlessly about how she was going to kill herself. I wouldn't normally recommend this tactic, but he just ignored her, and eventually the text stopped. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks after she seemed to have accepted that it was really over, a mysterious fire started in her condo, leaving her without a place to live. And despite being insanely wealthy, she really felt like the best place for her and her dog would be my friend's tiny apartment. They just needed something familiar. After the trauma, he wisely refused. You will never, ever convince me she didn't start that fire herself. What a crazy story. Alright, now on to story 2. My mom has custody of my sister's daughters because my sister abandoned them. My sister doesn't ask about them, doesn't try to visit them, doesn't call them. Surprisingly, my mom got a call from my sister on the oldest daughter's 5th birthday. Unfortunately, it wasn't to wish happy birthday, it was to announce she had stage 4 duodenum cancer, which was upsetting, obviously. Only my sister didn't act sick. She acted excited about all the concern. She never went to the doctors, and people started to catch on. About a year later, after people started calling her out on her inconsistencies, she put on her Facebook that she had been feeling sick all week. She pooped twice that morning and went to the hospital, and the doctor declared her cancer to be gone. She pooped up her cancer. Of course, some dumbasses commented on her status congratulating her for being cancer-free. My comment was deleted though. Something to the effect of, "Really? You fucking pooped up cancer? Why the hell would you take attention away from your daughter's day with this shit?" Another user then responds, "Wow. So she faked cancer in order to outshine the daughter she abandoned." Some people have no shame, like the sheer gall of trying to hoodwink people into believing she vomited her cancer out. Stay away from your sister. Op answers, "Ha, I haven't talked to her in years. Last I heard from her, she got locked up for not paying child support for 2 of her kids." Baby number 4's dad messaged me on FB and said my sister was wanting me to bail her out. I laughed and said I wasn't doing it. I never met him before, so I was still trying to be kind. He confided in me that he feels like she was lying to him about certain things, and he was debating leaving her and taking custody of their daughter. I told him do it, and told him about some of the stuff she has done, including raising baby pound 2 for 9 months, and then gave her to a random 18-year-old kid with baby's social and birth certificate, and a text saying, "Keep the little bitch. I don't want her." Anyway, when she got out of jail, she messaged me to ask why I said all that stuff to him. I told her that it was the truth. I was in court the day my mom got custody, and presented your text as evidence. She stopped talking to me after that, lol, but I still talk to baby pound 4 dad and still Skype baby pound 4. Another user then comments, "Super cool of baby daddy no 4 to keep you in the loop about your niece's life though. Shout out to him, even though he stuck his dick in crazy." Op responds with, "Both of the baby daddies that have pound 3 and 4 are great guys, big ass nerds and not the type of men I would ever go after, but great fathers and wonderful men." Baby pound 3 dad chats me up weekly. He knows baby pound 4 dad personally and convinced him that I wasn't like my sister. Pound 4 dad was so cautious. He is protective of his little girl, but has even agreed to let me meet my niece when I fly back home this winter. Actually, I even talked to baby pound 1 dad, even though he doesn't have custody of baby pound 1. He was more so young and didn't know how to handle being a dad. He has another daughter now about baby pound 2 age. I consider her my niece too and Skype with her as well, and send her gifts for Christmas and her birthday. I can't wait to fly back home this year. I am rounding up all of my nieces and nephews and taking them to a water park. It will be the first time they will all be together." Another user then says, "This is honestly so wholesome. I'm very happy for you to get a chance to meet them and have a relationship. You are a good aunt." Op was a very good aunt indeed. Now on to story 3. I was having my second child, Maddie, when my mother decided to pull one of her glorious, "No one deserves more attention than me" acts. Tyler, fiance, and I were in our hospital room, spending time with our daughter. We were about to get some shut-eye when a nurse came to the door to let Tyler know that he had a call waiting at the front desk. Our first impressions were kind of shocked because we had cell phones and thought everyone knew to call us personally if they wanted to come visit. Oh, and it was also like really late. It was my mother, of course. Her husband had allegedly beat her, and her dogs had attacked him. Her phone was busted up, so she ran to the neighbors to use their phone, and didn't know what our cell numbers were, so she had Googled the hospital number. She needed Tyler to come immediately and get her. I laughed. I seriously laughed my ass off. The first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Why didn't she call the cops? We are nearly 3 counties over, just had a baby the day before, and what the heck were we going to even do about it?" Tyler had told her no, and we didn't hear from her anymore. My sister told me the following day that she was fine, and never said a word to her about anything like that happening. Maddie is now 2 years old, and has never met my mom. I was fed completely up after that embarrassment. It was not the first, and I knew it would not have been the last either. Yikes. Okay, on to story 4. I met a girl at the gym. She saw me doing squats, and asked me for help, and what muscles squats work. Her eyes lit up when I told her that squats give you a better butt, so I taught her, and became Facebook friends. Every time I saw in the gym, she was doing squats. As the weeks went by, I noticed the change in the size of her ass. She ditched the baggy basketball shorts, and opted for spandex booty shorts that said, "Yes, she squats," across the back. And then I realized I turned her into a squat that, oh man, her Facebook is wild. Haven't seen her in about a year now. It's all super dramatic posts of falling in love, and then not trusting anyone. She got pregnant at one point, had photos, then unexpectedly started posting things about heartbreak, and then posted more photos of her not pregnant. Definitely a crazy place. Facebook. On to the story 5. My sister is mentally disabled. At the age of 22, she has the cognitive function of 11 or 12-year-old. She has severe fear of missing out. I don't know where it comes from, but she gets serious anxiety about being left out of various events, even though we make a special effort to include her in most things. She goes to a school aimed to teach adults with special needs different life skills. If she knows I'm coming into town to visit my parents, or I have something planned with them, she'll fake illnesses at school so my parents have to come pick her up. It's super annoying because it means that we all have to cancel our plans, and she's always faking it. As soon as she comes back home, she's perfectly fine, but my parents and my sister's teachers caught on to her BS. After several incidences of faking sick, they stopped indulging her and stopped calling my parents. My sister realized she needed to up her game. After watching 13 Reasons Why on Netflix, my sister found out that claiming to be suicidal was a foolproof way to get the attention back on her. One day at school, she tried to fake sick again. Her teachers weren't falling for it, so she got her hands on a phone in the school's office and dialed 911, threatening to hurt herself. An ambulance came and took my sister to the hospital. She ended up getting herself stuck in a psych ward for over a few weeks. She learned her lesson and never played that game again. Well, I hope she gets over her fear of missing out. Don't we all have a bit of that though? Next story. I went to a wedding last fall, where the sister of the bride rolled up in her luxury SUV, and got out wearing a white flowing lace dress, and had her kids dressed to the nines in tiny and expensive formal wear. The wedding was an outdoor one with everyone else, including the bride, wearing their casual work clothes because the big formal wedding had to be postponed. The sister also officiated the wedding, and proceeded to read 4 pages of biblical quotes on the nature of marriage and commitment, heavily leaning on marriage is a covenant, and forever, because the bride was a divorcee, and had previously broken the parents' hearts by eloping. Then she said she was too busy to come to dinner with everyone, and left immediately after the ceremony. Some people just don't know how to behave themselves at weddings. Oh my. Story 7. 3 people I went to school with, all separately. One was a girl who, quite sadly, told other girls in our year that her auntie was Rose from the Titanic, and she was building a new Titanic to find Jack. We were in high school, so about 14 here. Sad, really? She was on Jeremy Kyle. When she grew up, the second was a lad who was a bit older, about 21 at the time, who would put things like, might get married this year, on his Facebook just to make the, say, 16-year-old girl he was chatting to jealous though they had never met. This happened a lot. He was really odd. Like the time I was near him, in a library, and he, recognizing me, pretended he was on the phone talking to a girl. It didn't ring in the hilarious way it sometimes does in movies, when someone pretends to be on it, but the librarian told him to keep the noise down and he apologized, and forgot he was on the phone. He never carried on the conversation, just stood there with the silent phone in his hand looking at books. The third was a lad who put a video of himself singing, "Wherever You Will Go," by The Calling on his Facebook. Only it wasn't him, it was the actual song. Well, an acoustic version, but the proper band singing and playing it. I had the same song, so at first, told him he'd put the wrong audio on it, or you could hear the song he was singing along to over him, to which he said he hadn't, and it was him. I tried to tell him it wasn't, and he was adamant. Others did, and he was adamant it was him. An account he had just became friends with. This was when Facebook would say on tour wall, when you became friends with someone, with no profile picture or any information, wrote on the status that she was his girlfriend, and this was definitely him. It was obviously an account he had created himself. The next day he told his Facebook friends that he was going to audition for X Factor that afternoon. That evening, he updated his status of how he didn't get through, but Simon Cowell had specifically came backstage for talk to him, and tell him to personally stay in touch for the future. This person was also a bit peculiar, Having been suspended from primary school for looking through the keyhole whilst the girls were getting changed for PE in a separate classroom, and when he was 16 rode his dead grandmother's shop mobility scooter around town. There was also a friend who told my girlfriend's friend that I was cheating on her with my girlfriend. Well, that will have to do it for today's video. Remember to like and subscribe. Pog.